I'm in the hot seat today.
I'm asking Mike all those burning questions we have about his shop to see how he's doing, and we're actually going to look at some stats in his shop for the month of March. So let's get started.
Hey guys, welcome to No Friend Left Behind. My name is Mike, and come with me on a journey through Etsy.
So first, before we look at Mike's stats, we're going to ask you some questions.
Oh boy, where's my wine?
It's right there.
But first, let's have our errand boy pour us some wine.
That's it.
Take it away,
Work tomorrow.
boy.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay.
Peasant.
So, first question, Mike. What made you start your Etsy shop?
Who knows? I have no idea. No, really. So I saw Simply Shauna's success through the Etsy shop, and I was like, okay, I want to be a part of that, which bore the whole channel, No Friend Left Behind. Mm-hmm. She said she wasn't leaving us behind, and we have to do this because it's so easy but beneficial, and it could open doors for us financially and otherwise and creatively. And so I started my Etsy shop with big dreams. So
when did you start it? What year was it?
Who knows? My goodness, these are hard questions. If I can't answer these, then we have problems. So it was probably 2022 that I started it.
Because I think I started mine at the end of 2021. So You started right after.
I started it, and then I put a whole bunch of terrible designs in.
Me too.
Terrible ones. Some I just took from Creative Fabrica, and then some were just so simple and not thought out and not just nothing that anybody would want to buy. Yeah. I thought, but I did sell a couple of those. And then I stopped, and I didn't do anything in it. It wasn't doing anything. I didn't know what I was doing, had no plan, so I just was like, I don't want to do this anymore. Left it for a long while, I think it might have been a year or more, and then picked up again with it.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Okay.
Where are we?
We're 2025. Let's see where we are with your shop. But we forgot to do a little cheers.
Cheers.
Clink. What made you decide to do print on demand and not PNG files, digital files?
Well, I didn't know about that, early on. I didn't really have any knowledge of Etsy. Mm-hmm. I mean, I bought some things on it, but nothing to do with T-shirts or print on demand. I bought a cutting board.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that this was a whole world that could be a business that could be successful.
Yeah.
I just thought it was something that people did. I don't know. Those people did something on, and I had no idea what it could grow into.
Okay, until Shauna showed us. Do you try to focus more on trendy designs, specific holiday niches, or evergreen niches?
More so evergreen.
Okay.
A few niches that are pretty standard and common, and looking at that, I didn't want to spread myself too thin, so I just said, well, why don't we concentrate on that and stay in what I know sells.
Yeah. What is something you wish you knew when you first started?
That's a good question. I wish I knew and prepared for how much time it takes and how much organization you need to have. Mm-hmm. You need to be able to manage time wisely, which I can do with some things, but I don't just across the board. And so that's a huge thing. Manage the time and know, okay, you have to put these in order, this in order, and have a process so that it just doesn't go aimless. I can start and have an end in sight. Mm-hmm. Because I started and I just was like, oh, let me do this and spend an hour here. And that hour could have been much more it could have been much more organized.
Okay. How do you balance Etsy with everything else you have going on in your life?
I don't. I do not. So I have a job that is 3 in 1.
Which, congratulations, because you just started a new job.
And I just started a new job, which is almost like 3 times my original job, like where just a lot of things going on. And so your question is, how do I balance it? Right now I don't, because I haven't really truly touched my shop in months. I did put 1 or 2 designs. I don't remember because it's now been weeks. And I A/B tested them, which turned in a few more listings, and I was very proud of that.
Nice.
And that was part of my last video. But
okay.
Yeah. But since then,
yeah,
not a thing.
So now, are you getting any sales? Because other than those few listings that you just did a few weeks ago, you just said that for like the last 4 or 5 months, you have done nothing with your shop. So has your shop just completely like dried out?
So one would figure that since I've been so laxed with even opening it and like looking at it, that nothing would be happening. Mm-hmm. But the sales keep trickling in. It's been pretty steady, and I'm not saying it's 10 a day or anything like that, but it's been pretty steady where maybe every other day, or at least a few sales in the week every single week.
Wow.
There hasn't really been a week that's been like, oh, nothing.
That you don't at least get something, like right. 1 or 2.
And a lot of,
that's
and
so crazy.
A good amount of traffic, and I mean, for my status of, you know, I'm not Shauna level, I'm not your level even, but for that, it's I'm doing pretty well because I'm still getting sales.
Yeah.
And I think I had 4 last week.
Really?
And 2 of them had multiple.
Wow, like a group order.
Right.
Okay. So how many, like just a general like estimation of how many like listings you have in your shop?
I have roughly 300.
So with only 300 listings, you are getting regular weekly sales. And even some of those sales has been multiple shirt order.
Right.
And you haven't even touched your shop.
This is truth. And it's hard to believe. I'm thankful for it. Because had I not been getting these sales, I probably would have been like, done.
Yeah.
But there is something cool in that because I did make these designs. Mm-hmm. And so, hey, somebody likes it. And I'm like, okay, this can gain traction.
Yeah.
And I know there will be a time when I will get my butt in gear and say, like, just do it.
Yeah.
Just manage your time.
Yeah.
And devote these hours to this.
Yeah.
On a weekly basis.
Okay.
But right now,
there's a lot going on. Yeah, right. There's a lot going on, but that's something to be said. And that's not to say that that's what everybody's journey is going to be or what everybody's journey has been. Because at the amount of listing that he is currently at, I was getting 0 sales. So there's also something specific about what he has in his shop that isn't about just putting whatever, like he mentioned earlier, that you had some terrible listings of just putting some creative fabric or designs on shirts like I've done in the past. And you did sell once or twice of that.
Right. And so what happened with that, I remember doing, you know, I sat with Shauna and we talked about a bunch of things. And then she's like, okay, go do it. And so I did it. And then I remember the next time we sat down and talked, and she looked at the screen and she has this way of like you know that something's wrong, but she'll try not to tell you. So she's like, okay, like reinforcing, like I'm in 4th grade.
Yeah.
Okay, well, this is good. You have a start, but I knew that I had done it all wrong. And then she's like, okay, we don't want to do this. And then I went down the list of what was wrong with it, and I knew I had no focus.
Yeah.
And then that's when I was like, okay, if I'm going to do this, then let's make it make sense, or at least make some traction so it's not wasting time.
Yeah, because what you just said to us is pretty eye-opening of just like kind of like how you started and where your designs were at in the beginning and how Shauna tried to steer you in the right direction, but also that you haven't been putting anything in for so long, other than those few listings a few weeks ago. So what do you think that you have done differently, like with your designs, that's in your shop, that's allowing you to not be consistent in your shop of like adding and anything like that? And we know consistency helps. But that you're still getting, say, like, what do you think that you did differently that maybe others haven't, or that you didn't do in the beginning that you feel is making a difference?
So I think that once I realized I don't like to waste time. Mm-hmm. And so going through and now understanding that you have to do some type of research. Mm-hmm. And it's not about just quantity, it's quality of whatever you're putting out. Mm-hmm. I needed to figure out a process and say, okay, I don't need to just look and see what I like and then make more of that. I need to figure out what other people like, even if I don't like it.
That speaks so much to me because I was doing the same thing.
Sure, of course. Like, because I would
buy this.
Right, so I'm going to do it. But it's just about what is bigger, and then making it something that I would want at some point, mm-hmm. but actually just understanding what the trends are and what's hot right now. And then even if I'm making a design, but I'm kind of researching so that I can see what, even in another niche, what's hot, and then bring it to that niche. And so I did that with a handful of designs, which, I mean, it worked well because they still sell. And even some of the ugly ones sold, like some of the awful ones sold, but the majority of the ones that sold were ones that I took from another niche and then started designing in this one with that design in mind. Kind
of like similar to our lives where we've talked about batching.
Right.
Where we've taken from like other niches, mm-hmm. we see something that's a bestseller, and we've brought it into maybe the niche that you were designing, and you've seen that it's been successful, and so that's what's kept giving you sales. What has been your proudest moment, like Etsy moment?
You know what? People ask me this kind of question like, oh, what's your favorite food? Or mm-hmm. what's your favorite song? Or I don't have that.
No, okay.
But I can remember moments that I felt a certain way about.
Okay.
And so the obvious is like, oh, your first sale, which I do remember, but it's on the same level with me selling, and this is after I made sales, but me selling a design that I made in the first round when I was...
Yeah.
It was something that I looked at and I thought about it, and I was like, this is never going to sell. And I almost deleted a bunch of them. And then I think somebody told me, or maybe I watched a couple of videos and Shauna said something like, and don't get rid of them, just keep adding to. Mm-hmm. And it sold. And I couldn't believe it because it was one of the first designs.
I remember when you messaged us about it.
Right. And I was like, no. After I knew a little bit more, I was like, nobody in their right mind is going to buy this garbage. And then somebody bought it. Yeah. So it was cool. Like, I do, like, that sits well with me.
That one sticks out for you. If you were starting a shop today, like brand new, with what you know of, what is something that you would tell yourself to make sure you do, like, for your shop?
Well, I would be organized.
Okay.
In what my process is, and making sure that I have to be with myself very, very deliberate about, like, the time that I'm putting into something, or else I waste it.
Okay.
So I would kind of over-manage myself and say, okay, you're going from 3 to 3:17, and you're going to do this. And then from 3:18 to this, you're going to do this. And
very
really,
specific.
Right, until I didn't have to do that anymore.
Yeah.
But make myself do it. Otherwise, in the process, I'll get lost in the research and then just be looking for an hour and a half at, oh, this is nice. Oh, let me buy this real quick. You know, and not really making headway.
Okay. Like not focused.
Right.
Okay.
So it's just having understanding of what the commitment is and structuring myself better at the beginning.
Okay. Okay, I like that. I know that that's something that you would take in now if you were starting your Etsy shop. Is there any advice that you would give anybody who maybe is considering starting their Etsy shop?
I think you need to do all of the research ahead of time as to what it takes to run the shop and how much commitment it will take. If I had understood everything, I would have been so much further. But I also know myself, and I would have waited to start when I had a clear vision of it, instead of starting and then stopping. And I stopped because I didn't have that clear vision. Once I realized, oh, this is going to be some work, and then I was like, I don't have time for this right now. So then pump the brakes. And I think that if I had laid it out before I just jumped and did this and then this, I would have been much more successful early on and, in this moment.
Yeah. So essentially knowing for whoever's wanting to start, it can be easy, but it definitely takes time and commitment if you're wanting to take it somewhere.
Right. Everybody's mind is different. Everybody's the way they work. I don't like instructions.
Okay.
I don't follow. I want to be hands-on. I want to find out in the moment. To have to follow a process or create a process myself that works for me and then follow it, I didn't know that, and I'm not quick to do that. That doesn't come naturally to me.
Yeah.
So then it was like, oh, okay, this is work. It's almost like homework that I have to create something that fits in my schedule, a time frame, and then have good time management of what I've created. That's a lot for a person like me.
Yeah.
In my job, I'm creative to some extent, and I like to be on my own schedule and kind of do a little bit of this, and then I'm going to change gears. But you have to get all of the pieces in order, and if you're like me, you got to really structure that, which is what I'm talking about, the timing.
Yeah.
I've got to really structure that at the front end, so in the back end, it won't be a thought anymore. I can just go with it.
Yeah. Now that we have discussed that, other than a few weeks ago, you haven't really been touching your shop when it comes to adding listings. So I want to challenge you, and then I want to come back and sit back and ask you questions again about your shop. But I want to challenge you, and this is super minimal. He obviously has a full schedule, and with starting a new job, we don't want to overload him. But I do want to challenge you to every week doing one design and A/B testing, which comes out to 2 listings. So 2 listings a week. If you do more, you do more.
Okay.
But I feel like that's a super simple starting point. If you're already making sales weekly and multiple sales without doing anything and without adding anything to your shop, I think it would be interesting to see, because he does have very unique research-based designs that are helping him to continue getting sales. So if he does more and adds a little bit more, where could he be in 3 months? Could his sales have picked up by 1 or 2 sales a week, or even 2 or 3? Maybe now you're getting, even if it's just 1 sale a day, but you're getting daily sales, even if it's just 1.
Right.
So it would just be interesting to see where even just putting a little bit more effort could take you.
I'm like the guinea pig now.
Yeah, so you're the guinea pig. So I want to challenge you. Again, I don't want it to be 5 designs, 10 listings, or 10 designs, 10 listings, because I know that can seem a bit overwhelming, especially when you have a schedule of starting a new job and just, life responsibilities. We all have it. But I would like to see what happens with your shop with 2 listings a week.
Sure.
I'd like him to do, unless you guys have any other ideas, but I would like the A/B testing to be flat lay or people mock-up.
Right.
And so that's your 2 listings. That way you don't have to worry about A/B testing with 2 different SEOs or even break-even pricing or profit pricing or whatever.
Sure.
Just the mock-up being the different thing.
I can do that.
And just to see every week, putting that up and see what happens in 2 or 3 months, and then we come back on one of his videos in the next couple of months and see how he did.
Yeah, and I thought, I've been thinking about this a lot, because I know it was a month, and then it was 3 months, and then it was 5 months. And I think I hadn't really listed anything since we went on our trip to Europe.
Okay.
To be quite honest.
Okay. And then you have no other option because we're all together listing and designing.
And so that's the whole reason for this channel. No friend left behind. I have been tried to be left behind for a while. But I won't be left behind because they won't allow it.
No.
And so if you're asking, so why do you keep going? Well, there is something to this, and no friend left behind.
Yeah.
So
we're in this together.
I'm going to keep working, and who knows where I end up.
Okay, so now that we asked those questions, if you happen to have any more questions for Mike, add them in the comment section of anything else you might want to know about his shop that maybe we just didn't get a chance to ask. Maybe he'll respond in the comment section, or maybe we'll save some of those questions for the next video when we come back and check in and see how the 2 listings a week worked out.
Right.
But let's look at your March stats.
Okay, so my visits were 461, which is an increase of 201% from the previous year. My orders were 12 for the month of March, which increased 300% from 2024, the same time. My conversion rate, 2.6%, which increased 32.8% from the previous year. And my revenue, $242.32, very exact, which is an increase of 304%, which is amazing.
Yeah, as we were pulling this up, we were kind of like shocked at seeing the percentage of what it was in comparison. Because like when you look at it, you're like, okay, 461 visits, that's a lot of people coming in to look. But like 12 orders that's maybe 1 to 2 sales a week. Like 2 to 3 sales a week on average. Which is still good. But when you see the percentage, I feel like it really puts into perspective the gravity of like how big that really turns out to be from the year before.
Because what changed? Like, the only thing changed is that I stopped working. I stopped doing anything in it. Oh, great.
Because last year, March, is when you were designing more. Like, last year, you were definitely designing a lot more. And so, yes, you were still getting things and you were still getting orders. But this year, reality is you're working less, you're getting more.
Quit your jobs, everybody.
This is not necessarily what happens to everyone. I can't necessally say that I think it happened to me.
Right, when you say it happens to everyone, it's not like I won the lottery.
No. But I think it's just eye-opening. I think the reason why we want to highlight this, because for me it's eye-opening of what just even a few like research-based, like quality designs can do for you. Even after you're not really doing anything.
Sure.
So imagine if you did just a little bit more where you could go. Now, maybe to get to Shauna's level, if we're not, again, we don't necessarily put in Shauna time in our shops. Even I don't. But so it might take us a few years to get to that level, but the potential is there.
Sure.
I think that's the main thing, is to highlight the potential of what that could be.
Absolutely.
Make sure that if you found this video helpful, that you boop the like button below. If you haven't already, please subscribe and follow us on our journey and share along your journey.
And leave a comment.
Yes.
Ask questions.
We'd love to read them.
On whatever. Ask me anything.
Yeah. Mike will answer.
Might be with an attitude, but I'll answer. I know Lynetta always ends her videos with an inspirational quote. And so I'm biting off of her today. And so here is your inspirational quote. Failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of success. This quote reminds me that I have basically done none of the work that I'm supposed to. And I should be ashamed of myself. I'm just kidding. But that I'm not a failure. But I'm on a journey. And so you just have to you have successes, you have losses, but they all lead to the success. Once you keep going, you can't stop. And I'm not stopping. And so here we are with failure leading me to the success.
There you go. Well, thanks for joining us in this kind of like Q&A and getting a little bit more details into Mike's stats. This was fun.
It was fun. thanks for having me over, and let's do it again.
Yes, so in a couple of months, we're going to check in on Mike and see how he's doing with his 2 listings a week, okay?
I promise I will not come back and say I didn't do anything. I will not.
And then we'll see how his stats have continued to grow, and we can look at some of the other months. Until next time, guys.
Take care. No friend left behind.
Bye.